Hello, everyone. I am Supi Jankur, the founder of AppSec Santa, and today my guest is Federico Kirschbaum from Faraday Security, and we will be talking about application security management, pen testing management, and basically all around the Faraday solution. Federico, are you ready to help us to manage all this process?
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about security. It's something that I'm in love with for the past 20 years. And yeah, tell a little bit of what we try to do at Faraday and trying to help
Yeah,
teams.
go for it. Like, what is
All right.
Faraday? What are you guys doing?
So Faraday, it's a platform that ingests the results from detection tools, from open source tools to commercial tools. And we allow teams to automate those tools and to process the results in a healthy manner. This allows teams that are already burnt out by having everything in one place. So I think in a nutshell, we try to help application security teams scale their business.
And when you say tools, what gender are we talking about?
I mean, for the past 20 years, there have been this massive amount of tools. I think from your perspective, you're quite clear with that. You have tools for cloud, you have tools for DAST, you have tools for source code. And I think it's great. But the problem is how you share that information and how you create this kind of a understanding of where are the problems without having to hop from tool to tool. So in our vision, I think the core of any team are its people. So yes, tools are great. They automate the process, but people need to understand the results of those tools. So this is where Faraday helps.
So it's like adding a context out of that can get from the tool, or it's more like merging. I remember like Faraday that I used when it's like a pen testing interface. It was called pen testing IDE. IDE, yeah, it used to be called, but it came so far that now I'm seeing on the website like vulnerability management, application security, DevSecOps. So there's a huge change over the 20 years, I think, almost,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So you're right. Faraday has changed and security has changed as well. And we are not exempted from that change. We come as practitioners. So when we began building this tool was for us and for our colleagues. And the project became a product and the product became the company. So in this process, and remember, we are an open source firm and we help thousands of people with a daily basis. But at that point on the beginning, we were helping ourselves. And when we were building, the problem was there are great people, great consultants, great hackers, but they don't communicate themselves. They don't share the information. They redo the same task over and over again. And then when reckoning time comes, it's Friday, you want to go out, you need to send a report. And that process becomes so cumbersome that ends up in a drawer. Nobody reads it until it's compliance time. So we thought, how can we improve this? And I think Faraday is the reflection of that. And it's evolution. It's the evolution of the needs of teams. Um, Look, everyone that is in security is going to have the same complaint. They don't have time. They don't have the resources. And even if you give them a really sharp tool, which is going to uncover thousands of bugs, then and only then they're going to manage those results.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't manage that, it doesn't matter. So in my opinion, what kills companies in security wise, it's not cyber warfare, it's not 0 days, it's not that spring for shell, it's day-to-day basis and burnout. And I think that's where we're betting and helping understand, give context, tracking, and memory to companies of what's wrong. And we also help teams give that perspective internally. They don't have to say, everything's wrong, we need to fix this. Instead, they can give a platform so anyone in the company can understand the risk that everyone's playing. and then take a decision, even if that decision involves being risky.
So the collaboration is the keyword that we can use it in, summarized thing. Like the Faraday is addressing the issue, like the collaborating with team members of, the pen testers, or between the units in the same company to explain actually what's going on, and prioritization, and also maybe the increasing the efficiency of these individual tools that you use to get everything all in place.
That's a great definition. I would say it's kind of the scaffolding for teams to set up their own way of doing security. So you have great scanners. They're great. Everyone has its own choice though. Some people love Burp Suite. Some people love Akunetics. Some people love NetSpark. And it's not a bad selection. It's the tool that makes you more agile, more productive. But when results come, you need a way to have the best coverage in the less amount of time, and you need it to do it continually. And don't get me wrong, running scanners, it's fun for the first couple times. Then it's a repetitive thing. Yeah. So I think when we talk about giving teams structure, it's do not reinvent the wheel. Do not reinvent a new scanner. Use the scanners that are out there, but let us help you automate. Don't spend time reporting. Give us your time by saying what's important for you, the context of your company. Don't spend time trying to invent a new risk method. We can provide a way so you can measure your risk. So if we spend time in these things that we have been spending time for the past 20 years, we are not going to evolve. So Faraday, what tries is to set up the base of mundane work and being kind of a CRM for the problems of the company and the vulnerabilities by connecting to Jira, by connecting the tools, by giving automation, by giving connection to webhooks. And a big part of that, it's open source. We open source all our integrations. We open source all our clients, our API. We do charge a number of things, of course, because we are a company, but we are an open core company because we really, really believe that security teams are in the need of help. And sometimes that help involves not having money. So Faraday, in a nutshell, it's a document factory. It's a issue tracker. It's an automation engine. But in its end, it's the base that you can start working with other people and having everything on the same page, that it's not Excel.
That's great. Like, and from your explanation, like it opened another door that, now we have, all these tools are there and people are using it, but most of the time, as you also coming from the, the pen testing background, the actually building an AppSec program or like doing things, it's not like something that you need to invent every second week. And how you like, is there any service that you also like come with the Faraday, maybe the enterprise offering or something like that? Are you actually helping the teams to do things in the right way, right? Or out of the, the SaaS offering, like just the tool, but telling them actually you need to, run the scan every second week with this way, incremental, this and that. Like, is there such a support as well in Faraday?
Yeah. I think many companies that, so I would say, first of all, there are 3 types of customers. I would call it this way. We have consulting teams that are running their consulting and they're using our platform as a base, and they build their own business logic within their platform. And we just give them the tools and the elements so they can cook their own cake in their own way.
Pen testing companies.
Pen testing companies, service companies, tier 1 kind of companies. The ones that have maybe 20, 30, 40, 100 pen testers doing gigs all the time, and they need a way to ingest all that.
Yeah.
But it goes from a 2-person company to a really big company. But they all have the same problems. They need to build reports. They need to have
standardization and everything.
one-time engagements. I call it one-time engagement.
Yeah.
Right. Then you have the other group, which are the people that used to work in these companies and now they're working internally in Fortune 500s, Global 2000.
Mm-hmm.
They have the methodology. They love to break things, but now they're working corporate side and they're doing it in a long term. So they still use the same methodology, but they need a way to track and fix
A
those
frame.
problems.
They need a frame of,
It's
yeah.
exactly a life cycle.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you discovered this with work. How you're going to fix it? Who's going to fix it? So that's the second tier. And the third tier are the ones who don't have enough people and they hire us through the platform and we do this implementation and we act as bull managers for them by setting up the scans, but also interpreting what's important so we can give them a plan to fix it. So we try to augment their team by our knowledge and use through the platform.
Okay, so definitely a service part of it, if they need to grow that. And as it is like the very born, the Faraday, I assume the customer portfolio in this pen testing companies from, the
actually
one man to
it's the second one. It's the are the firms that are running an application security team and they need ways to automate their processes.
Okay.
If not, they're reinventing it. Like many of those companies were reinventing a platform similar to Faraday. And they were investing time, money, and engineering efforts in something they can come to us and get it for free through the open source. And even if they need more help, they can pay a license. But those are the in percentage wise are the biggest customers.
Okay, that's great. And it's like so competitive, especially like these years. Like last year, I think it started, but like this year, I think it's like the bare knuckle fight going on. If already not like this. I have seen like many different names like called like posture management, security program management, AppSec platform, name it. And now we see the DevSec, like DevOps solutions also acquiring some companies to add in their the pipeline management system to make this automation. So it's like the market is so hot. So how are you planning to like differentiate, or what is the strongest part of Faraday when you look at the market?
So I say that intro deserves a story, right? And when I started in security, there was this scanner called Satan, which was security auditing tool for admin users. I cannot recall the acronym, but a few months ago, I read this paper that said how you improve the security of your website by breaking into it, right? And it's from 93. We are not saying scanners are not working. We're not saying our solution is the greatest in the planet. We're saying that teams from I started in security need help automating things. This Satan scanner used to discover exposed NFS folders, right? We still have that problem in the cloud right now. So after 30 years, we have not solved.
I didn't know that.
But we still have not solved misconfigurations. We still have not solved the low-hanging fruit, the things that every scanner detects. So I think, and talking about this perspective of these new companies that are arriving to this space of trying to help manage those results. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you discover, it's what you do afterwards. So in this moment of crisis where talent it's limited, budgets are limited, the learning curve of managing all these tools, it's also tough. I think there's an opportunity for companies like ours to curate, to automate, and to provide the solution for the one who's looking for that solution and not for the whole process. I think Faraday allows, and if we are talking about good things, Faraday allows you to self-serve security for your team. You can run it as many ways, but at the end of the day, that information is going to be normalized, indexed, and be in a platform. So you have this collective memory of everything that you have tried, everything, every tool, every command that you have run, when and where and by whom. That creates an understanding of your efforts. We're always talking about being secure, protect your customer. But at the end of the day, security companies are part of a business. That business is going to move forward, and you're building a castle who changes the doors, changes the windows, changes the alleyways, and you have to make it secure. So I think the practicity of being flexible and understanding risk by moving with the business is the only way to go. So all these companies that came out in this past few years, I think they're awesome because it validates a vision that we had a long time ago, that we were betting into people, the people that run security and not just in tools. And Faraday, right now we launch a freemium service, right? So you can go to the website, you log yourself and you put a domain of your email, and we are going to run a quick scan, like a attack surface management style scan, as they call it right now. But we wanted to help a bunch of people by doing that. But in the end, what we are trying to show is the power of automation, the power of that everyone can create kind of a platform with our platform and provide some sort of services. It could be a balloon scan, it could be an application security scan. We provide those tooling, but we want to provide a vision of running security in a SOC-less way. You get the tools, you automate, and you get the notifications when you need it. And I think it's not about being the best scanner. It's not about being the best pool management tool. It's about helping by cutting hours from overworked teams. And I that's what pushes us to create these kind of ideas and not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and actually, like before the call, like this week, I tested the freemium model. It was like,
oh, you did
super nice. Fast, super clear. Like register, get the activation, go in, choose your, the target. These are the tools that I want to use. So you actually, and it's pretty smart that you leave the agent part to the the end user side. So you run up your the agent with the from the Docker, and boom, you automatically have maybe 5-6 tools running it, and the results getting into a normalized way, like in a standard, rather than even with testing the open source tools. It's not actually free. You spend a lot of time to the maintain those, update, and the working on those results. So I think definitely solution like Faraday makes it like 1 + 1 to 3 with using the multiple tools and adding keeping the gap really shortened between the tools and make it more efficient for everybody.
Yeah, and so in a way, when you think about things that move security forward, right? And well, if you name drop a number of things, you would say Nmap, right? You would say Metasploit. You would say Nessus. You would say OWASP. There are a number of tools that have been in this industry and have moved them forward. But when you put it in context, you think things about Kali from Offensive Security, and they ship a distro that made the default because setting up all those tools was tough. Yes, Nessus eventually got into a private mode and they split with OpenPass, but open source tooling has been helping from day one in security. And I think the main challenger for those tools was user experience. Like running Metasploit from scratch was difficult until you understand it. running Nmap from scratch was difficult until you understand it. So there are two paths. You either say you need to learn this the hard way and spend a year understanding all these tooling, they have a pretty particular UX, or you give them a curated way where you can interpret the results and not the tooling. So when you do that branch of thought, you realize your job is to make somebody else's job easier and not saying, oh, you don't know how to run Metasploit, which I think it's kind of the philosophy that put us where we at right now in terms of security not advancing as fast as we can. The biggest advantage in security are from people that are rethinking how we run security and thinking that we don't have the solution. The business has a problem. We need just to provide options, and making tools that are for the past 20 years in the shop are clever only if you can provide an easier way to run them and make them useful. So I think that's the challenge for us. It's thinking in workflows that have been used for a long time, curate them, and provide that content for people who don't have the time to learn a new tool. I need to know if there are open ports. I don't need to know verbose mode or versioning in Nmap. And don't get me wrong, Nmap it's great, but the learning curve is tough, and they end up copy and pasting. So whatever we can provide in an automation, so you can come and get the results from the tools that you picked, for us it's a winning match.
And then, I mean, that's the reason why the market of Faraday getting more popular. It's like there's no other way to handle the number of applications in every company have at the moment. Like people talking and like 200 APIs, like the 50 apps. Like you don't go and configure them individually and work individual reports and everything. Like it's impossible to keep it up with the scale of agile development. So I think it's not even a choice anymore. Then
it's the scale of the business, actually.
Yeah.
Like if you're working with startups, they are growing 2 times, 3 times a year. Scaling security, it's not about scaling security. It's about keeping up.
Really challenging.
So,
and I had the interview
it's
with
real challenging.
we had an interview with Sean from HSL, and he said a nice thing that sorry, not HSL, from the 45 episodes back. He said that every company after a moment become a software company. Like after when they have the 20 people or something like that, they have always a lot of different apps, and everything needs to be secure. So every company becomes a software company eventually.
And that's, I think, the biggest change in the security scene. What you're seeing right now is that philosophy change. You don't see cybersecurity, you see security engineering. You don't see gatekeeping, you see paved roads, you see secure by default, you talk about scaling. So the engineering mindset has arrived to security. And I was lucky to work in this industry from a really young age, and I have learned the things that are useful and the things that are not. And I realized that most of the things that we're trying to do can be solved with collaboration, with transparency, with collective work, and not about arriving with a black pen saying these are the CEO emails and being the smartest guy in the room. I think that only creates controversy and politics, which I think they're useful tools, don't get me wrong, but engineers love to solve things in scale and they love problem solving. And part of security has been living on the same problems and not make them more complex. And I think that's the challenge. So in a nutshell, if we keep up working and scaling the things that we have done, tooling is going to become super important. But, and your website, it's a good indicator of that. There are tools for each technology. There are platforms for each vector. And it's great. But if you're a CISO and you are, I mean, a CISO with a big company that it's moving forward, that has a budget, you don't have enough people to man those tools.
Yeah.
And they're expensive to maintain, they're expensive to use, and it's been so many times, the times that I have went to a place, I just run Nessus. I've just run Nessus or a plain, and I have found plain low-hanging fruit problems. And I ask, hey, you have Nessus, why are you not using? I don't have the time. And I think that's the clear vision. Engineers are going to see that. It's like, okay, what it's important from this, and from this list, I want this in my email or in my Slack. That's the perspective. And that's where we help. We give them those tools. We give them the Slack bot. We give them the webhooks. We give them our API. You don't like our UI?
Yeah.
Perfect. But if we can construct that idea, you reinvest whatever it's in your ecosystem. And I think that's the key, because there are great companies out there. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that information needs to be processed in some way and make understanding within context. So it's could be ASOC, could be posture management. I'm not familiar with all the terms, but I do know it's a real problem, and that problem needs help, especially in a crisis like now, where the companies who are running security might get shortage of talent and not a shortage of problems to solve.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to help our colleagues within this industry, it's part of the philosophy at Faraday.
Definitely. Really good summary that you explained. I want to take a step back with the Faraday, and I'm really wondering what is next, because your releases are quite dramatic usually. And so can you share a little bit some items from your roadmap, what
Sure.
needs to be expected? Yeah.
Of course. Well, first, thanks for noting. We like to have fun. We know what we do, it's serious. It's not a joke, but we love to have fun when we work at the company. And I think that's how we express it in a nerdy way. So what's coming up? So we have been redoing the whole thing. We have redone the whole UI. We have provided a number of new things. But I think what we are betting is this simplification of processes. So what we are doing is we just about to launch a workflow engine. So if Nessus finds this specific issue, what you're going to do with that. So that could involve enrich that information. That involves setting up risk. That could set up sending to a Jira engine. So I think what we have been working for the past 2 years is, once you have the information on the platform, now what? And I think that routing, that problem, it's what it's going to be our next bet. It's basically these help people need while processing information. So it's everything that you might think of enriching, classifying, clustering, and trying to give a few options for the user and not thousands of polls. So that's, I think, the next step in the next months. It's kill 60% of the issues in a matter of seconds.
So it's giving them the automation option to the automating the process side of the things, what's going to happen, who will do it, when needs to be done. I assume those will be criteria of those features. Sounds really good. And as a last thing, how about the pricing? I know there's like the open source free version. Then you have also freemium with coming cloud with some limitations. But more detail from you.
So if you want to see the pricing, it's on the website. That's something as well we think of, and I think nowadays everyone is talking about product-led companies, right?
Yeah.
And for the past 20 minutes, I have been working that people have no time. They don't have time either to deal with sales teams. They need to see value. They need to, as you said, you went to the website and saw the freemium and see what's up and see if that likes it or not. And I have saved you maybe a couple days in emailing us saying like, hey, I want to
booking
try
a
this.
meeting,
Booking a meeting,
demo.
oh, I'm in Finland. It's tough, right?
This is how this button works.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I think sales are super important, but it's important to show value. And people that work in technology, at first, at least myself, I don't want to deal until I have a good perspective of what I'm trying to solve. If I see a part of that value, I want to talk to a representative that can guide me through the process. But if I can get away with a credit card, I would do it. So our pricing, it's super simple. It's on the website. We have 3 tiers, I would say. The freemium, that it's a mono user, it's a cloud hosted, 2 projects at a time platform. This allows small teams or teams that are running kind of a back bounty thing and they need clever ways to manage the results. There you go. Doing OSCP, go for it. You can build the reports you need for OSCP. But then you go to the commercial side, which is the pro version, which it's 5 users, 5 projects at a time. And we basically provide document factory. So
and it's cloud again, right?
Come on. Sorry.
It's on the cloud, so it's not on prem.
It's on the cloud, but it will also provide on-prem for specific customers. Again, the window of operation in our industry, it's super different. We have people from consultancies to government, but we try to provide a cloud version. We are almost SOC 2 certified. We do our homework, but mainly that process, it's around $7,000 a year, and you can pay in monthly installments, kind of a software SaaS model. And then you have what we call the corporate edition, which is unlimited workspaces, unlimited users, and that's kind of our central version that we provide most of the customers, because it's the one that provides automation. It's the one that provides all the Jira connections. So if you're running an application security team that has more than 5 people and you want to talk with engineering as well, that is kind of the way to go. But we also provide services on top of that license. And the corporate license, it's $25,000 a year, and that provides support. And if you translate that investment in the time of your team, it's a great investment, because we are going to solve the things they need to do, but they don't want to do. So that's how.
And without not doing like doing wrong updates. So like getting it right in the first time. So I think that's like maybe the best dollar you're gonna spend on AppSec.
So you have been in sales, right? At
Indeed.
One point in your life, right?
Yeah.
And imagine working without a CRM. You might not like that CRM, but if you're talking about hundreds of things, thousands of things that change, I'll put that with a risk and a problem, which are vulnerabilities. So we aim for people not to use Excel. That's it. That's our main challenger. It's Excel. And Excel, it's from the 80s. It's great.
Google
I love
Sheet.
Excel. Yeah. Google Sheet, exactly. So if we can provide a clever way for teams, it's the same for sales team that we're using Excel for sending emails and inbound. And then they discover a CRM, like, oh, we can automate the outreach, we can create processes, we can create analytics. So I think our approach is not too different from that.
Exactly. And you are already solving like these problems for last 20 years, and the adaptation is great. Like, so you're not come up this idea to, hey, let's build a product and make another unicorn. You are doing this, you're coming from you're sharing the same problem with your customers yesterday, and now you say that I solved mine this way, let me share with you. And that's a great, like, the having an empathy with your potential customers. And I think that's one of the key elements of success of Faraday, I guess.
Yeah, investment in cybersecurity itself, it's kind of a new thing, of course, and you get a lot of people in the same space, in whatever space that is. You have 10 to 20 companies trying to solve the same problem, and I think it's awesome. But we are a bootstrap company. We eat what we catch, right? We cannot have the freedom of making things that do not work. And we work really hard, and we talk a lot with our customers. We do our mistakes, of course, like any human being, but that has taught us a lot in this time. But also being open source and being free, because don't get me wrong, but everyone can have Faraday and say a good thing about it or a bad thing about it. But we're still releasing because we really think we're solving something. And when you have that commitment, when you have that passion, I think clients need allies. They don't need vendors doing cold calling all the time. So they need somebody to lean on. So in terms in general, I think venture capitalist firms are great, but you see a transition right now to open source firms. For example, Truffle Security, I don't know if you've seen that investment. Truffle Security, it's an open source tool to detect secrets. And they had this great A round. So I think some VCs are investing in the infrastructure for the future of companies. And I think that's a little bit of our vision, being kind of a default in the open source world of how you manage bones. And there are great open source options, but I think companies from all sizes are going to need those tools. So whatever you do, if you can provide something so you can help everyone else, I think it's great. And it's great to see VCs going that route as well.
Thank you for this call. It was so educational. And
thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. And well, keep up with AppSec Santa. We all love you.
Sure. Thank you.